What is your reaction to the Bucks deciding not to come out to play and then the NBA consequently postponing the entire slate of games tonight?
I'm incredibly proud of all parties involved. First of all, I want to give major props to Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, because he stepped up in a big way. I think Mark Spears was right on the money. If he didn't want to do this, it would not have happened, or it would have been a really huge roadblock or impediment to it happening. George Hill and the other players on the team stepping up, Budenholzer supporting them, the Bucks organization as a whole supporting one another. We give them props. The Orlando Magic joining in, we give them props, because I think that if the Milwaukee Bucks stood alone, it would have been absolutely positively disastrous. It would have looked like a house divided. They would not have looked like they were coming together. People would have found ways to poke holes at these guys, and it would have been counterproductive in my estimation. But when you stand up collectively, what you're saying is, and what you're admitting, Rachel, is that you know there may be a potential sacrifice in here. Obviously, the networks are going to lose money potentially. That means the league is going to lose money. That means individual owners are going to lose money. And as a result, they're going to ensure that the players lose money. Nevertheless, the players said, damn that, to hell with it, as LeBron James tweeted it with words, the F word, because I can't repeat that over the airwaves. The bottom line is taking that kind of position is basically acknowledging that you recognize the potential sacrifice that comes along with it. It's going to affect you potentially hugely monetarily, and you don't give a damn. Something needs to be done, and anything that it takes to bring attention to the plight of African-American men in this nation, you're going to stand up and fight no matter what. And if you've got to go down, you've got to go down swinging. And none of them are alone. And that's what's so important about this. And that's why I'm so proud and impressed with what they were doing. Again, if they were doing it individually, if they were doing it by themselves, even as one team, I would have had a huge problem with it. But the fact that they've all come together collectively, I think speaks profoundly about what's transpired.
What do you think, Stephen, that the players should ask for? What do you think should happen? What should they demand before they get back on the court? Because it's not just games tonight. We are in the middle of the playoffs. There is an entire slate of games tomorrow. There's games scheduled for the next few days. What do you think the players should do now that they have pulled this lever?
Well, Rachel, first of all, I think that's one of the easiest questions you've ever asked me. It's very simple. Number one, the Milwaukee Bucks obviously want to bring attention to the Attorney General in Wisconsin because they want this particular officer prosecuted for shooting Jacob Blake. That's number one. But number two, and more importantly, let's understand something here. The players as individuals don't necessarily contribute to the political apparatus that exists in this country. They don't really contribute to politicians that we know of or political action groups that we know of. But owners do. The commissioner probably does. I know former Commissioner David Stern, God rest his soul, he definitely contributed to stuff like that. Leagues themselves contribute to these things. And as a result, they're participants in the political process. Therefore, they're in a position to get some of the things from politicians on the local, state, and federal levels that a lot of individuals, even individual marquee athletes, might not be able to pull off. So you collaborate with these individuals and you make sure, or these groups, and you make sure, not just as a player, but as a league, not just as a league, but as a bunch of billionaires with cachet that ultimately contribute to those political parties. Excuse me, this is what we need transpiring on Capitol Hill or in the State House or on the local level. That's how you do this. You got to crawl before you walk. This is the crawling process. And as long as the players recognize this is the crawling process, you would be moving in a profoundly forward direction, because that means you have no intention of stopping. You're going to march forward and move forward with significance and substance, and that will force everybody to stand up, pay attention, and act accordingly.
Absolutely. And Stephen A., you and I have covered this league long enough to see a real change in the way that sponsors treat players, their political and social views. I can certainly remember times in the past decades where if a player or a team went out and made this stance, their sponsors would abandon them. There would be such a huge backlash across the country against them. I think we have seen that change. We saw Nike do a commercial for Colin Kaepernick. What do you feel like the reaction is going to be among fans, sponsors, league officials, now that the players have actually gone and done this?
Much to the chagrin of a lot of people in corporate America, including this network and many others, I think it speaks to the political atmosphere that presently exists and will exist. There's an election coming up on November 3rd, and you'd have to be blind, deaf, and dumb to not recognize what a lot of these players are leaning towards. You have to recognize the fact that there's going to be another side that's going to be averse to the positions that they've taken. They're not going to try to just make the NBA feel the pinch, but they may also make sure their voices are heard come election night. It's incumbent upon the players to recognize this and act accordingly. I think, to answer your question directly, we're going to see a lot of people that once would have, really frowned upon these kind of actions stand up and support these athletes, because once the dust settles, they're going to want to do business with them. And those athletes are going to remember at a time like this, particularly considering the kind of issues that we're discussing, they're going to remember who stood with them, who supported them, and who didn't. And as a result, people are going to really toe a line in that regard, and they're not going to take profound and definitive positions the way that they did unless it's for these guys, because they're thinking ahead past election night, even past this situation that's going on right now. And they're going to make sure they don't alienate the very individuals and the very leagues themselves that they're looking to do business with. And when it comes to big business, baseball is big. The National Hockey League is big. We get all of that. But football and basketball, oh, trust me, that's large too. And football is on another level. They recognize what history is what history has taught us, and what the present times potentially will see, will record, and for history. And as a result, they will act accordingly. So you're going to see people frowning upon it, but in the end, people will be on the right side of history, whatever side that is.
Absolutely.
And I think we all know what side that is.
I was going to say.